yeah. Oh, yeah.
What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to The Fringe. We are certainly falling on dark times, especially as we head into elections all around the country. You always see your municipal elections in Alberta, especially. We're talking about a leader being replaced in the NDP with a very veiled threat of Naheed Nenshi taking over for Rachel Notley's NDPs, and the possibility of Danielle Smith being ousted in the next election due to a lot of messing around and people talk about rigged elections. Now, Justin Trudeau has extended the period in which elections run by a couple of days, but merely to allow his crooked MPs to garner themselves their pensions as they're kicked out of office. Of course, those pensions basically live the rest of your life and enjoy certificate as they leave their civil servant jobs, which again, they've never had any interests in civil servants. But now elections are being threatened in municipalities. And this is where the start of our problems kind of increase. Now, if a city is going to do this, one reason I want to highlight this is because it now affects province, it'll affect federal. If these motions continue to grow and the clown world continues to expand, ladies and gentlemen, this is all a part of the plan. This is all part of take in and destroy and leave you with nothing while you be happy. What am I talking about exactly? Well, a proposition and a bill that has gone through in Calgary that potentially will challenge my ability to run for mayor as the next city mayor of Calgary, as woke failed mayor Jody Gondek comes out voting for a voting rights motion that passes 9-6. Hey, what's a voting rights motion? Well, let's get into that. Calgary councillors' push to allow permanent residents to vote in municipal elections was approved on council on Tuesday. So in Calgary, non-Canadian citizens are now going to be approved to vote in elections. So when you talk about Justin Trudeau's Chinese interference, when you talk about outside interference in elections, this is how you rig elections. This is how you get things done if you want to install mayors, if you want to install premiers, if you want to install prime ministers. While the motion passed in a 9-6 vote, one councillor called the decision to lobby the province to make the change an exercise in futility, considering a UCP minister has fully stated the government has no interest in the move. And of course not. You should only be able to vote in Canada if you're Canadian. If I move to the United States as a Canadian, I'm not allowed to vote in their elections. I'm not allowed to vote for governors. I'm not allowed to vote for senators. I'm not allowed to vote for the president. I'm not allowed to vote for judges, school trustees, you name it. I am not allowed to vote unless I become a full U.S. citizen. And even then, I believe there's stipulations. I could be wrong. While City Council does not have the power to extend voting rights, it will forward a resolution to Alberta Munis' next annual conference in September as an advocacy item. If it has support there, Alberta Munis, which advocates on behalf of 265 member municipalities to the province, would lobby the government to amend the Local Authorities Election Act to expand voter eligibility to include individuals who are not Canadian citizens but have been granted permanent resident status. Somebody please tell me where this is beneficial to Canadians. Now, while this has to go to the government, people are going to say, Derek, don't worry so much. This is going to be squashed by Danielle Smith. Again, if you go back and look at my video recently this week where I talk about the very, very possible threat of Naheed Nenshi taking over as premier of the province, something like this wouldn't just come to pass in Calgary. But again, this is where I say this would spread provincially, this would spread federally at that point, and people like Naheed Nenshi, people who are in bed with the World Economic Forum, well, this is all part of design. This is part of the plan. This is how you fix elections when you don't want to use things like voting machines. We've seen Danielle Smith talk about digital machines are not allowed in elections. It's going to be paper ballots. It's going to be the way it's always going to be, because they want to get rid of the possibility of corruption in elections as much as possible. I'm not going to say that deceased people don't vote. I'm not going to say that there isn't a little bit of tomfoolery going on in elections, but this is how you get around the province saying, well, we're going to get rid of those machines. We're not going to advocate for those things. Well, let's bring in non-citizens to vote and rig elections. Currently, Section 47 of the LAEA states that to participate in municipal elections, voters must be at least 18 years old, Canadian citizens, and reside permanently in Alberta. Ward 8 Councillor Courtney Walcott, who introduced the motion Tuesday, who should lose her job, by the way, in the next election, said permanent residents deserve the right to vote in municipal elections, considering many pay property taxes, use city services, and contribute to the vitality of the municipality. No, they do not. No, they do not. I hold a Canadian passport. I am a Canadian citizen. I live in Alberta. I pay my taxes too. And if I, a permanent resident, do not have privileged rights to vote in this country, what do I have holding that Canadian passport? You're not allowed to do that in any other country in the world, as far as I know. Why is it going to be allowed here? He said in a motion strictly focused on municipality elections, the LAEA, and does not seek to amend. Courtney Walcott is a man, by the way. I forgot to mention that. The big question is what to do here, Walcott said. When you're thinking about a province that when you're thinking about what a province does and what a federal government does, there are a lot of reasons as to why you would want to limit the voting rights at the level of a particular citizenship. But at that local level, what do? We create community. Here we go. Diversity, equity, inclusion. They're going to throw all this nonsense in there to get what they want. People need to realize that this is why politicians wave trans flags. This is why they talk about altering surgeries and things like that. They don't care about these things, but they make them relevant so that they can bring up these trigger words to get the support of the wackos, as Pierre Poilievre calls it, to jump on board with their backwards policies. Councillors Dan McLean, Jennifer Wyas, and Sean Chu, Peter DeMong, Sonia Sharp, and Ander Chabot voted against the motion. A common theme amongst the opposing councillors was the achieving the right to vote as an incentive for permanent residents to pursue citizenship. Sharp said her mother was a permanent resident for 30 years and was incredibly proud when she was finally able to vote. I agree. Wynas noted that the Alberta Municipal Affairs Minister Rick McIver has already waded into the debate by stating that the province will not entertain amending the act to extend voting rights. Again, doesn't really mean anything right now if guys like Naheed Nenshi get in, does it? She also asked Walcott to explain how the extension of voting rights would avoid creating a tiered system in municipal government, as allowing non-citizens the right to vote would also grant them the ability to run for office. Again, colonization. This is how it happens. This is how it starts. She said the motion would start a conversation about challenging the status quo. If we're afraid to have a conversation on how things could change, that's more worrisome to me as to any potential outcome, she said. Walcott said taxation without representation was one of the fundamental arguments around the creation of the North American countries. He also referred the ongoing public hearing around blanket rezoning, adding the last week councillors listened to perspectives from both citizens, non-citizens on the matter. This is a conversation around, are we going to talk about their values? Who do we represent? He said. Now, again, non-citizens do pay taxes, and they have a right to voice their opinions on things like blanket rezonings or different bylaws that a city wants to put in. Of course, we want to hear what our citizens have to say. But when it comes to voting in Canada is a Canadian right. You must be a Canadian citizen. This, ladies and gentlemen, should scare the living daylights out of you. This is how we lose our country. This is how we lose our cities, our provinces, our country as a whole. This is how they come in and they take over and they colonize. And people can say it's racist all they want. It has nothing to do with racism when you're wanting to protect the integrity of your own country that you were born in, that you carry a passport for, that you pay your taxes in, that you are a citizen of. I don't care about diversity, equity, inclusion if it means that we're going to stomp all over fundamentally what is acceptable and what is not. And I'll tell you what is not acceptable right now is what's happening in the city of Calgary. We'll take one last look over here as Kirk Lubinov tweets out, "This is insane. City of Calgary passed a motion to extend municipal voting rights to non-citizens. It will call for Alberta municipalities to explore allowing permanent residents to vote in municipal elections. Lobby the provincial government to allow voted in favor. Of course, Crooked Lizard, Wokefield Mayor Jody Gondek, Courtney Walcott, Evan Spencer, Courtney Penner, Terry Wong, Raj Dhaliwal. Need I say more? Richard Pootmans, Giancarlo Cara, and Jasmine Mian. Again, take a look at these names in these seats. This is where people say, oh, you're going to vote your way out of problems. It's not going to happen. Take note of these names if you're in Calgary. Watch your councillors, watch your premiers, watch your representatives, watch your federal representatives. This is the importance of voting. Every single one of those councillors and mayor who voted in favor of supporting this should immediately lose their jobs in the next election. They shouldn't even come close to getting any votes from Calgarians, especially Canadian ones that have the right to vote. But let me know what you guys think down below in the comments. I can't even put my words together. I'm so flabbergasted that this is the world we're currently living in. This is what we're deeming ourselves towards in terms of losing our identity as a country. It shouldn't just make you mad. It should really get you scared as to how vigorous this machine of elites is working against this country to absolutely demolish and pummel it into the ground. Let me know your guys' thoughts down below. If it's your first time here, I hope this video has earned your subscription. While you're hitting that subscribe button, make sure to click your bell for notifications. Join us live here on the channel every Friday night for Friday Night Fringe at 8 p.m. Central, 6 p.m. Pacific, where we're going to go over things definitely like this in this week's stream, as well as some Q&A with our community. It's always good to hear what you guys have to say outside of making these videos, and I always look forward to hearing what you have to say. I especially look forward to being in that stream myself and hope to see you all there, and hope you guys have a great rest of your day and enjoyed this video. I'll catch you on the next one.